land of ancient Greece, there was a golden age of powerful gods and extraordinary heroes. And the greatest and strongest of all these heroes was the mighty Hercules.
What may have been a 1997 flop is actually a classic Greek mythology movie for Gen Z. Here's a quick rundown of the movie for those who may have forgotten. Zeus slept with this mortal named Alcmene by disguising as her husband and sleeping with her. So Hercules was born as a demigod with super strength and stamina. Zeus's wife Hera was vengeful and wanted him dead. Early on, she sent two serpents to kill him, but baby Hercules strangled both of them. He's trained by his mortal father, Amphitryon, and successfully goes into war. And he marries Megara, with whom he had three strong sons. Hera could not withstand the situation and sent upon him madness, in which he killed his children and his wife. At the approximate age of 50, he is promoted to a god. Oh, wait, that wasn't the story. Disney wouldn't have adapted such a vulgar tale. Here's the watered-down version. Wonder Boy Hercules is the son of the mighty god Zeus and goddess Hera. The gods love him, but Lord of the Underworld, Hades, doesn't. He takes Herc's immortality away, but not the super strength. He does everything in his power to try and destroy him. Hades fails, because while Meg was his weakness, she turned out to be his greatest strength. Hercules finds his purpose and lives happily ever after with his true love. Unfortunately, Disney isn't the first to bastardize an amazing Greek myth like Hercules. Hollywood has its fair share of Greek blasphemy with over 80 adaptational films of the story. This doesn't make it hard to believe that Hercules was introduced to America through a Broadway musical. But you're probably wondering, what's the big deal with fabricating it? There's no harm done and children are learning some Greek history. That's where I say to you, you are wrong. But before we can get into the exact flaws of this Hollywood trend, we might have to explore the cinematic world of the 90s. From Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles to three Batman movies and an animated show, the 90s set the stage for superheroes. Many famous comic books were being adapted into animated shows and movies.
Superman. In the 2.5 years I was working on Superman, basically I took everything that was there and just put a slight spin on it. The idea was to say the modern audience wants certain other things from the characters. They don't want their characters quite so perfect, quite so squeaky clean.
Well, these two guys, John Musker and Ron Clements, were doing exactly that with Hercules. They tweaked the original story to conform to the quote-unquote modern superhero, which may have been why it wasn't a box office hit. To better comprehend why there's more to be awed by in the Greek mythology version, there must be an understanding of the key points of this idealism, which are good versus evil, redemption, and heroism. Good versus evil, Batman versus Joker, and here we have Hercules versus Hades. Hades, the poorly assumed villain because he rules the underworld, is associated with death, which automatically makes him evil, and innocent Hercules doesn't even know the guy. And then the gods also don't necessarily hate him, but definitely don't like him, and are just enjoying themselves up in Mount Olympus while he's drowning in his sorrows. In Greek mythology, none of the gods are actually good or evil, and Zeus is actually the perfect example of this, because, as everyone knows, he's high and mighty, everyone worships him, he's the best, but in reality he was actually known for his infidelity to Hera, and he was not the most faithful husband. Hades never wanted to overthrow Zeus, and he ruled the underworld because he lost a bet with his brothers, and he was actually the one who started the bet, so if anything it is his own fault, and he's fine with that. Hades also never wanted Hercules to die, nor did he ever go after him, in life or anything like that. And as mentioned earlier, this was all Hera's evil doing. This goes to show the perception of evil by films like these, and the fact that we all see Hades as a villain because he was made out to be that way. There's much to be learned about these imperfect gods because there's a duality for humans. Greek myths show that even when gods make mistakes, for so long as they redeem themselves, it's alright. You would think that Hercules achieved some kind of redemption in this movie, but honestly, he didn't. He never did anything that made him guilty or held him back, so his good actions were just a part of who he was and who he wanted to be. The only character who got redemption was Phil, as a failed hero trainer. But this movie isn't about Phil. It cannot embody the theme of redemption that the original Hercules story does, because in the original, Hera induces Hercules into a state of madness so that he kills Meg and his children. After awaking from this inducement, he realized what he had done wrong and went out to seek punishment for this horrid crime. A good hero story starts with a character to empathize with about their wrongdoings, and they come out on top, which makes it more compelling, especially with Hercules, because he had gone through so much already, but was still able to complete the 12 labors in the original Greek mythology story and redeem himself. The lacking component of Hercules' redemption in the movie served as a loss to his character growth. He was already a nice, loving guy before he met the girl, got the riches, and gained the muscle. So this draws a line as to whether this movie is about identity or heroics. Heroism is the most important theme in Greek mythology, and also, of course, this film. It is definitely the main thing to take away from this. And heroism, it's important to remember, is a subjective matter, of course, not only dependent of the time period that it's talked about in, but also in the manner it's talked about in. Heroism can mean being heroic to yourself, but also heroic to the people around you or a large crowd of people. And it's really cool that Disney decided to align themselves with those 90s superhero movies. Um, many similarities. Of course, Hercules, our main male protagonist, fighting villains, has a sidekick, has a mentor, does gain riches, even though it wasn't his goal, does gain riches, and of course gets his lady, Meg, which is his ultimate endgame. And the problem almost with doing this was that there was no originality in the heroism. And it was honestly kind of sad because seeing all of these other films do so well and Hercules not do so well, even for a Disney film, it says something that there could have been something else done to make it better. But the big thing to take away from this is that the Greek mythology definition of a hero or defining thing of a hero is that they're very strong, they kill innocent people, specifically Hercules in this situation, and they go through a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, and most of all, they're flawed. And that is the general definition of what a hero is, as gruesome as it is. And Hercules had to go through a lot, of course, as we know, with Hera basically going after him his entire life until his very death. And it was really hard for Hercules to obviously recover after having killed his family. But in this movie, it is very watered down. None of that is mentioned. There is no sign of violence, or maybe a little, but it's not as gruesome as the Greeks did it. But a hero here, especially for Hercules, is that he was flawed. Maybe no one else saw it, but he thought he was flawed himself. And it took Zeus telling him at the end that being a hero was the strength of your heart and not your physical strength, even though he did accomplish so much with his physical strength. And I think Disney kind of failed to recognize that being flawed isn't a bad thing. They didn't verbally mention that, and I think they were just trying to focus on the time period where appearance mattered so much, and this obviously resonated with Hercules, especially in this adaptation. So what? What is the problem? What is the deal with these movies, Greek mythology movies, just completely botching what Greek mythology is about and bastardizing it? Well, I think they're missing the point that Greek myths have this inexplicable ability to show and tell. And the reality of the scenarios they create, and even if they are bizarre, transcend all time because humans are in constant need of learning wisdom and virtues of kindness and courage. And unfortunately, Hollywood is terrible at show and tell. It is all show and no tell, which is why Disney's Hercules was honestly just one big show. There was no tell, and we were all just attracted to the music, the bright colors. It was just aesthetic, and as a kid, of course, there's nothing you're not going to like about it. But looking at it now, at my age, it was unable to truly convey the crucial lessons and messages of Greek mythology. And Without using the explicit graphics of the originals, younger demographic studios like Disney should be able to teach younger demographics that being heroic doesn't mean sunshine and rainbows, and that standard that the 90s hero movies had placed, because pain, imperfection, flaws are just the reality of life. And people who are able to overcome that and use that to strengthen themselves are the real heroes at the end of the day. And that is exactly what Greek mythology is trying to teach us, because these greater morals will be forgotten if directors and producers continue to choose to upkeep the trend instead of guiding a new one.